Well, hello, and it doesn't seem, I don't think that, according to like TSL, April is the cruelest month, but it's one of the weird months for us here. Now we've been raining for like 17 days, sort of like we're in Ireland. You know, Easter already, we had that. All the power went out on Monday, and it was like it was dark for 4 minutes.
But the Mayflowers are coming.
But our scheduling has been interesting, no fault of our own, but thankfully, and there is, of course, the man who keeps us on God's good side, Greg, is here.
Hey, guys.
But a very big thanks because of how the show's been going this month, and we'll have some fun shows ahead. That one of my best friends...
About time.
Well, a really good friend of mine and a really bad influence is here. Once again, please welcome John Adams.
Hey, John.
Yes, I'll never forget. I'm coming
me.
out of church one Sunday, and there's a fishing line with a bottle of Irish whiskey. It's like, it leads me to a plate. And that's how I met John.
I caught him.
I've got the running joke now about how he turned me into a reprobate and like a Marlon Brando type from the 50s. But you have some news, though, is you have your own radio show called, you'll never figure this out, The John Adams Show, which I like the title. I think it's direct.
Clever.
We only call it Carnival of Randomness because we don't want to go two lunatics talk about nothing for an hour. So how did that come about?
Yeah, so it was interesting. It was sort of interesting, for me at least. And my buddy Lee, who owns a business in the Rochester area, Lee Frisbee, owns Frisbee's Landscaping Ponds and Patios, which is basically a construction company. He has his own radio show, and it's on Fridays, 106.3 FM Rochester Free Radio from 1 to 2. And he asked me to be a guest. So I came on as a guest, and he says to me after the show, hey, you know, there's an opportunity for you if you want to do this thing. And I go, do what? He says, be a radio guy. And I go, that's interesting. Okay, let's talk about it. So we went to breakfast the following week and had an hour and 20 minutes of breakfast and talked about what his experience was. And I said, yeah, let's talk about it a little bit more. And he got me in contact with station management. And about 2 weeks later, I started with the show. Was his a business show, too, or was it something different? His is a business show, yep. Okay. So that's your main thing, right? My main thing is business-related. My guests' businesses specifically. We talk about success principles and stories around that. We talk about failures and lessons learned, work ethic. We talk about the different experiences that people have had within businesses. So that's one show for all you losers out there that aren't getting anywhere. This is kind of a show you should listen to.
I've been saying that. I've been saying
so you can get somewhere.
There are people who should listen to the show. And the thing John does, too, is I used to call my professor, Dr. Don Bain. I would say he could talk about sewer systems in Amherst, and it'd be exciting. And John makes the subject interesting because honestly, it could be a little dry if somebody didn't.
Oh, sure.
Your principle, here's the pointer, and here's the...
Right, if you're trying to do a PowerPoint on radio, that wouldn't work very well.
Yeah. Well, you know, a successful business is no small feat, no easy thing. I mean, you know, there are ways to do it, and it's good that you have that experience and you kind of guide people along. I think that's awesome.
I think so. I was thinking of, like, really interesting jobs and fun that would be fun if you could drink Coors. In the 1970s, pro wrestler Dick Murdoch was paid $90,000 a year just to go to bars, buy Coors for people and drink with them.
No kidding.
Could you imagine, just like, John, here's a $200,000. You have to drink Guinness. What do I have to do? Drink Guinness with people. No.
That would be so terrible.
Get him in a full Nelson and wrestle him to the floor.
You don't know, like, Dick Murdoch, he had, like, that really good old boy personality, like I could see. But the funny part about him was a lot of pro wrestlers went to West Texas State. They played football. Now, Murdoch didn't, but for years he said he did. And they actually, he convinced himself that he's actually in the yearbook, and for alumni, they bring him out.
That sounds like a Gothic Toad story.
Hey, watch it, we're going to get sued, pull up here. We mentioned these guys. See the Bauman show up out there with like a mallet or something.
What's the Gothic Toad?
It's the world's greatest band. They've been on here.
Oh, yeah. Well, apparently
that one.
There are some issues with the band, and I'm not sure what the story is, but it disappeared into the mist or something.
They got too popular, and I remember too young, and because I sort of was a road manager for them, you get people bothering us, so they pulled everything. like off. Like they're like, if you could find any of their stuff now,
wow,
it's really, really tough. I have like some, but I've been told even they're like really good friends of mine. They'll sue us if we play something out here.
Isn't that weird? I mean, be careful what you. I mean, don't you want to be
really
successful? I don't get that.
But it just was too much too soon, I guess. And like the bass player had like some issues, and it just got. I remember like people would be bothering me, and I could see.
I guess it's like having a kid too young. You're not going to be ready for it, you know.
Yeah, and they've always been asked to reunite, and like a couple, like Rob Mountain was in. He's done a lot of stuff, but they'll ask him about now. He's like, you just don't ask Rob about it. Talk about Lou Graham all you want.
Well, you know what? That's an interesting phenomenon. Actually, the trauma that sets in if you have a situation, musicals or art or whatever, that doesn't go well, and you're just scared to death. You don't even want to touch it. You don't even want to get back to it. You don't want to talk to the people. I mean, that's severe trauma to me. That's like, money doesn't do anything. It's like, really? You don't even want to be in the same room with this person?
You know what? I
that seems
get
weird
like
to me.
too. Like sometimes, when you're a kid or you're younger, did you ever like really aspire to do something, and then you started doing it? You're like, no. Now I had a buddy of mine. He just wanted to go to Notre Dame. Just really, really wanted to go to Notre Dame. So he gets really good grades. So he's going to go visit Notre Dame. He comes back and goes, God, I freaking hate Notre Dame.
Wow.
And he ended up going to Virginia Tech. But you get that because I went to, like for colleges, I went to one place and I was going to go there. And the thing was, I'm glad I went to for some reason, there was like a introduction stuff during the summer. And I went there and I'm just going, this place is not for me.
Yeah, that happens. I mean, jobs can be like that sometimes. And even though you're skilled and everything, you go into a place, the vibe, the culture, whatever you want to call it, sometimes just doesn't work.
But I get I don't think, and again, I think business owners are very underappreciated. It's like the ones who people want the services, the goods, the jobs, but they're the bad guys. And it always gets me, having done businesses that, like our small business. Did you realize being a small business owner, you're a millionaire?
I've got closets full of $100 bills. Are you kidding? Yeah, just like every other business owner out there.
People just somehow.
That is a joke.
Right?
People just get.
I have tens of dollars.
I remember
I work 80 hours a week to get paid half the amount I would if I had a job.
Yeah, right.
Well, I mean, Greg's one of the rare drummers. He's so successful. He's got islands that he's.
Yeah, in my brain. So, what? Speaking of weird business things, real quick, have you heard the latest from the Burton Cummings situation?
No, thanks.
Okay, so there's this Guess Who band that's a tribute band, and I think their old bass player.
The name of it, or we have to guess?
I'm not sure. Yeah. Guess Who? No, they're not the Who. They're the Guess Who. But I think it's the bassist and one other guy. And they're going around, promoting this thing. And what Burton Cummings did is very unprecedented, I guess. So what he did, he took all his performance rights off any songs that he wrote. So none of those guys, if they do them, they get in big, big trouble. So he got with his lawyers and stuff, and he said, okay, it's like basically illegal to do those songs now that he wrote. Because he just doesn't want them doing it. Because he thinks people think it's going to be him and Bachman, and it isn't, and all that kind. So it's very interesting.
I always wonder. I know John Kay at Steppenwolf had a huge thing with, and the one guy in the band is like the perfect spinal tip, like Goldie St. Gold or something.
Oh, Goldie St. John.
Yeah, Goldie St. John. It's like a spinal tap name. Yeah. But John Kay got him where he caught him where they can't use the rights or anything.
Wow.
And it's amazing too.
That's intellectual property.
Because there's like a story about Kiss, and it's like people who met him early on, they were fine because they were all on the same page. And I think you get people together, you have a common goal. But then they don't, once you make it, you don't, somehow it hits you and all your different personalities come out.
I have a personal theory about that. To me, it's kind of like divorce lawyers. You can go into a divorce situation, at least in my mind, I'm thinking this, and it's like, well, it's just not working, blah, 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 blah. And then the lawyer goes, well, you can do this, and you can get this, and if he does this, or she, and then they put ideas in your head. And I'm sure these record company people do the same thing. Hey, you write all the songs. You should be taking over. Blah, 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 blah. The next thing you know,
Or it could be an agent that
It
says
happens.
that.
Yep.
I can see how that would work out. The other part of this whole process is that a lot of these bands start when they're kids.
Right.
They're 17, 18, 20 years old. They're really not full adults yet.
Right.
They haven't experienced the world as adults. They're not processing things as adults. And, you get this ragtag group of people together that are very creative and very talented, and they make this amazing music, and then they start to grow as people, and at the same time, they haven't actually negotiated their business relationship as a group amongst each other. And so as they age and they go through life, they start growing apart. And as they grow apart, you get this little rub over here and this little frustration here.
Right.
After years, it grows and grows. And now you've got an adult person thinking about things as adult issues, and you're dealing with people you've been friends with since you were kids that you actually didn't negotiate anything like, hey, you want to be the bass player in my band?
Right.
Yeah, I'll do that. And that's the end of the negotiation. You get together.
Yeah, pretty much, yeah.
You get together, and now you're a band. The band becomes a business. There's no further conversation around that business structure or business relationship.
But somebody's got the big agenda,
Yes.
and you might not.
And there's the thing, people forget it's a business too.
Yeah.
There's actually a serious line near the end of Spinal Tap where Marty DeBerge's interviewing the bass player Derek Smalls. He's like, you realize this whole thing's sort of an adolescent fantasy you've been living, and but it means when you're caught up in this bubble, you're not in the real world.
Right.
But there are bands who, like it or not, like them, they treat it just as a business, and that was one of the bands. Was Queen, where they weren't really friends, but they got along fine. But it wasn't like they hung out. What they would do is, okay, we did an album, a tour, see ya. Then they get back together.
And they respected each other.
Yeah,
well, they're educated guys. They're not, Brian, astrophysicists or something. I mean, these guys aren't dumb, so they know kind of that they have to go
then
beyond.
there's other bands where they grew up together, though, and then they did grow.
Well,
I actually came across a great saying. It's when you die, hell is you, the person you're meeting the person you could have been.
Oy.
Which
Ooh,
got me.
I like that.
Made me miserable for weeks. But there's something I've been focusing on for business and anything in life. I've been starting to talk about how much negativity can you take. And the way I mean that is anything you're going to do, you have to put the work in.
There's no doubt.
Say you're you don't have to worry about being a bodybuilder. Say you're serious. You have to do, and we don't want to do the cheat way.
Well, there's a huge process to get involved in just doing that, right? And the same thing with business. There's a process. There are steps you have to take. There's work you need to put in. Who is it? Mr. Wonderful. I can't remember his name.
Paul Arndorff. Pro wrestler?
No, Mr. Wonderful from Shark Tank. Business guy.
Right.
He says it's nearly impossible for people to make their first $100,000 and have that set aside to be an investment into a larger endeavor. He says it takes a tremendous amount of work, a tremendous amount of planning, and very few people get there. And what you alluded to earlier, Rob, is that when the average person views the average business person, they think that business person, just because they're in business, has closets full of money just waiting to be spent on something. And that's not the case. For most people, it's almost hand-to-mouth. Now, there are some people that are very successful that make six figures a year after taxes, but they're using that to live their lives. They're using that to support their home, buy their cars, go on vacations, just like somebody who's making W-2 wages would make $60,000, $80,000, $100,000, and they would use that money to go on vacation and to buy their homes and to buy their cars. So it's not millions of dollars, right?
And I think about the risk and about the negativity factor of one of the best stories of my family was my Uncle Harold Hummel. And he was around 27, 28, and he just didn't like what he was doing. He worked at a funeral parlor. He was selling vacuums. Now, keep in mind, he had a wife and a family, and he's like, I don't want to do this. So he started his own business. He put it all online, and he founded Clover Pool Supplies.
Wow.
Clover Pool. But he put everything. But then I saw later some of the stuff that people trying to get in with him because he was
right. They don't want to do the groundwork
and everything else. And it always got me. One of my little life stories was he would hire you for the summer. And now you get paid for, like, being a kid in those days.
Right.
Good money, and he wouldn't torture you. He wants you to be a kid. So it would be, like, maybe, like, 15 hours a week.
Right.
So some of my friends were like, yeah, let's do it.
Right.
But then I had other neighborhood kids who wouldn't. So I still picture this in my head the one day. So you get all to buy all the kids stuff. You know, I get my albums, my comic books, my bazooka gum. So one day I remember it was, out of all things, was a lemon ice from Burger King. And one of the kids was like, well, why don't you buy me one of those? Like, hey, we'll give you an opportunity. He looks at me and goes, you're spoiled.
After having spent the money you worked for, you're spoiled.
Okay, so wait a minute. So you got to back up a second. How does a funeral home and vacuum cleaners even remotely connected?
Well, he had a really good, he was a salesman personality. He always, and he used to like to brag. I used to go, God, why does he talk about, like, his money and stuff? No, he wasn't bragging. That's what he was good at. Because they were jobs.
Right. And you can do more than one thing at a time.
And I remember, like, when he passed away,
mix.
When he passed away, there was these old Puerto Rican gentlemen crying their eyes out. I'm like, who are these guys? So I actually went to talk to them, and they're like, in those days, and my uncle was born in 1919, so we're talking like 60s,
right.
50s. It's like, nobody would hire us just because of who they were. He's like,
sure.
Your uncle hired us and took a chance on us, and we're always grateful.
Wow. Yeah, we've talked about that before on here. It's like the whole thing where people think prejudice is some new thing. It isn't.
You don't think everything's
been around forever.
You don't think things are better now.
Well, I mean, it was just against certain groups. I mean, now it's a different group, but back then it was other groups. And, my dad even told me that, like changing his name, all that stuff, because it was easier to get a job. And that's just the way it was in the 30s and 40s.
Yeah, it's life. It's reality. Reality is not easy and everything. It's not. But that's the big thing I'll go back to again. It's like most people, like my friend Tony, who owned Empire Comics, he would talk about, people come in here and think I'm a millionaire. You sell some of these comics. Right. I know what he made. He also did snow plowing and installing security systems and fences.
On the side.
Yeah.
Well, you can guarantee it's going to snow at some point.
At some point. I was in the snow plowing business for a while, and the average... So there's a couple of ways you do this, right? You have a contract. Somebody pays you $250.
Right.
And no matter how much it snows, you go out and plow their driveway, right?
Right.
Or they pay you per trip. And there was a point to where the average snowfalls that required plowing was 17 a year. And then a whole bunch of people on contract, that year it snows for service 56 times.
Wow.
So 56 services means you're upside down in the amount of money that you would expect to earn per trip. And so you go back to potentially charging per trip, right? Instead of having a contract. And there was one point that I was partnered up with a guy. There was one point it had not snowed for 11 weeks or some ridiculously long period of time. It was a long, long period of time. And this was and that might not be the right number, but it was a long time. We had not had any cash flow at all. We had bills that were piling up.
And you still got trucks to maintain.
We got trucks to maintain. We got the payment on the truck. We've got the insurance you got to pay. And my buddy calls me from Virginia, and he says, it's Tuesday. They've already canceled school for Friday. We got a big storm coming in. You might want to think about coming down here. This was Snowmageddon 2010.
Wow.
And it did not snow from Tuesday to Thursday that week again, and the projections were that it wasn't going to snow for 2 more weeks. So my partner and I fueled up our trucks, got in the trucks. We drove to Virginia. A normal trip is 6.5 hours. It took us almost 13 to get there because by the time we got to Pennsylvania, we were driving through inches of snow.
Wow.
On Thursday night. Arrived in town about 1 o'clock in the morning. And at 8 in the morning, I had a full voicemail on my phone because my buddy had gone out on Wednesday and put in all of the mailboxes, emergency snowplow service, call this number. And we saved the company because we would have gone under if that hadn't happened.
Now, that is ingenuity.
Speaking of that, awesome. If you, too, would like to invest, I've been trying to start up a snow plowing company in Arizona. Give me your money and I'll sign a contract with you. No, it's ingenuity, though. There's a guy used to stop.
Well, that's foresight. I mean, you have to be able to kind of anticipate and have a plan.
Who stopped in at the corner. What he did one year in Florida is he got 6 hot dog carts. He brought white hots down there.
Oh.
Now, you might not think of it here, but you can't get white hots down there.
Right.
Yeah, there's only 2 real places in the world you can get white hots, in Germany or in Rochester.
Right. Yeah. Well, yeah, because they're bratwurst.
They would call them,
basically.
they're basically bratwurst or something like that. I mean, that's the same thing, sort of, I guess. But that's the ingenuity of it.
Yeah.
So here, I've got this business idea. You guys might want to invest. Andy, I know you're listening. Think about this as well. It's you get a whole bunch of leaflets. You know, like in wartime, they drop the leaflets on the enemy. Right. So they'd use helicopters and airplanes to do that. So I think that we should get leaflets on pallets. Drop them out of a C-130 over neighborhoods like Pittsford and Brighton, Penfield, and it would be litter cleanup service. Call this number.
There you go.
I'm actually laughing.
Create a need. That's business 101 right there.
When Antifa started, and these idiots were like blocking. I was visiting my friend in Philly and blocking. Somebody dropped a bunch of McDonald's applications.
That's great.
And I got pissed off actually online because I was writing about this, and somebody wrote, there's no jobs. And I just said, I run a business, do you? I could tell you how many people I tried to hire and I'm not doing it. But it's funny because I used to live in Alexandria, and the funny part of me thinking is snow, literally, if we were doing like a show here or anywhere in Alexandria, touch the ground in D.C., they would close everything.
Wow.
I'm sitting there laughing. I'm like...
My buddy sent me pictures of the grocery store, the bread, the milk, cleaned out.
Wow.
Cleaned out. You get just fractions of an inch of snow and everybody panics.
It's crazy. And driving, too. It's like, or people getting gas, and it's like, really? Well, anxiety takes over. It's like the worst comes to mind. What if this? What if that?
I remember, like, 2020, it's just about the time, it's like St. Patrick's Day, and my friends 1916 are playing out at Iron Smoke, and I'm talking to Alicia, I'm texting, like, I don't want to go, it's this weird crap going on. It's like, I'll go down there, right? So I go down there, it's actually not for St. Patrick's Day there, it's not huge, but I leave, I said, okay, I better stop in Wegmans. As soon as I go to Wegmans, there's Brunette.
Yeah.
And we're stuff like, Tommy, we go in, there's like no bread. No,
yeah, that's crazy. That was nuts.
Remember, did you hear about the guy who bought like $10,000 worth of toilet paper that tried to return it?
Oh, that was in Australia.
Yeah.
They did not allow the return.
Well, you think about that, you don't want to use like leaves there because there might be a snake in Australia. Or blue ring octopus.
Eastern brown.
You pick up a blue ring octopus.
I still find that the weirdest thing that comes to your mind with the pandemic is that.
The toilet paper?
Yeah. It just seems like an odd... Yeah, I don't know.
I remember the conversation I had with my now fiance, Tamara, then girlfriend, and we had just come back from a trip from someplace. I think we were in Florida. Came back, and she was telling me that all of her friends were saying the toilet paper sold out. And I said, that's BS. There's just no way that that's actually happening. And we went to like 4 or 5 different locations looking for toilet tissue, and it was all sold out.
Wow.
And I was like, this is real? This is actually happening? And it was.
Monsters are due on Maple Street. But the funniest part, during my dad's dementia and my years of hell, one of his things he would do was he would steal toilet paper and hide it around the house. So literally, it's like he prophesized. I'm looking around the house and I'm finding toilet paper. It's like he knew.
He's like the toilet paper squirrel.
He was like a seer where he knew. It's like, I might not be here by then, but I'm going to save you and do you a favor.
Either that or he was just figuring, well, in case I, have to go somewhere, anywhere I walk, I'll go be one of
these sandwiches he would make with cheese, liverwurst, and a dab of toilet paper on them.
Do you remember the Facebook memes that showed like 10 squares of toilet tissue and be like, $30, I know what I got.
Yeah, right.
I'm surprised they didn't do like the little thing like, alleyway. Charmin?
Right.
Got the good
hey, Mac, you got a minute?
That's another topic, like, for your show more than ours, because we joke mostly about stuff. We're light and merry lads. But the idea of personal growth, and, like, one thing that's got me, like, I've been, like, analyzing my life and evolving. I said I had to grow up with some of these things. And I actually was, like, in a really weird, serious moment where I'm going, I've lost a little bit of my humanity losing my dog and not getting another one, but I can't get another one. But like dealing with my dad all those years, my own health problems caused from dealing with my dad and dealing with the show. You know.
Oh boy.
But then and other things. But what I see sometimes, people complain and complain and complain, and they don't change. They don't do anything.
Well, and the reality is that they can complain for weeks or months or years, and that doesn't change a thing, right? It's action that changes things. And sometimes there's no way to change what somebody's complaining about. You have zero control over it. And so you figure the amount of energy and effort that they put into complaining about something they have no control over, if they put that energy and effort into personal development, like you were saying, they might be able to improve their lives.
Right.
Well, I've sort of given up. Like, for my true friends, I'll help them. I'll do anything. But I would try to help people.
Sometimes if you change what's around you, it'll affect other things.
Well,
you know, how things kind of work together. And then, like, if you know what I'm trying to say?
Well, especially if the people around you aren't the right people.
Well, I had, like, there's a kid who came into Empire. I could write a whole book about Empire Comics. And Tony was a wise man. I learned a lot. So I've been there. This guy comes in. He's not a kid anymore. He comes in. I guess he just moved back into town. He's talking to Tony. They knew each other, obviously. He goes, man, you know, he's like 32 now. He's working. He's got it all together. He goes, man, I can't believe it. I see these people I hung out with when I'm 19. They're still the same thing. They're just getting drunk. They're not doing anything. But I said one of my saddest things in life is I tried to help people. Like, if they wanted a job, I tried to find something. And they're like, I just want this. They don't do it, though, then.
Well, yeah. Well, there's inertia in people's lives, right?
Right.
It takes a significant amount of effort to get past that. And if somebody enjoys their misery, you're not going to be able to pull them out of it. They have to do it themselves.
It gives them purpose for some weird reason.
Yeah. Well, so one of our little
terrible purpose.
My friend Mike Augusta down there. Now, I'm not a Trump fan, and we don't really talk politics, but I do think there's like a derangement, and I think, you know, it's on both sides. You see like some crazy stuff about people saying the Democrats, everything's a conspiracy, but there's like a Trump derangement for them where he's like the Antichrist. You know, and I worry he loses. I think people are going to lose their purpose. Some of them.
So that's an interesting conversation because. While he was in office, people were saying he's literally Hitler.
I'm not, you know, they have no idea about history or anything. And I'll tell you the really quick, funny story I've told before. I'm walking down by the beach, and there's a guy. I'm minding my own business. He's like going on about, you know, Trump's a fascist. He's Mussolini, and I don't know if I give him. He's like, oh, you don't even know who Mussolini is, I bet. So I go, El Duce, he's the leader of Italy from 1921 to 43. Before he was editor of Avanti, the socialist newspaper, there was a form of government was corporatism, which is like an interlayered green socialism. Closest thing to it now is Gaddafi's Libya. But could you define fascism for me? I don't know what you're talking about. And he's like, I'm busy. And he runs away.
Well, you know, I've always thought this too, and I'm not astute with politics a lot, but my whole thought with Trump, sometimes I think the reason he's a big threat is because he's trying to circumvent the traditional way that stuff is done.
I think he shows them for what they are, too. Because
that's what I'm saying.
There's the one point about, you want oil? I'll just go take over Syria, which is what they want to do with their
military. Well, I mean, everybody says it should be run like a business, and I guess he was trying, and then they didn't like that either. And he's trying to not do things the way Congress and everything does things. He's like, and that's a threat to them. And I think they're after him.
My point about it, too, though, is just that, he's just obnoxious in a lot of ways. Yeah. But the thing is, he's not like the devil. You have no idea. You don't know about Mao, Pol Pot, Castro, Stalin, the guy with the mustache maybe we can't say on the air, you know, and all these other people. You have no freaking idea. And I've been in the Soviet Union, and this wasn't even when it was in its worst time by far. You know, the old joke during Stalin was, like, if you heard a knock on your door in the middle of the night, you better hope your building's on fire.
Right? Yeah.
Or what a terrible desire to have, right?
Or the good story about, you know, Stalin used to like to smoke his pipe in the morning, and he couldn't find it. So he tells his henchman, Beria, you know, go look for it. So Beria comes back. He's like, Comrade Stalin. And Comrade Beria, don't worry, I found my pipe. But Comrade Stalin, I've already got 5 people to confess they stole it.
Good one.
You know,
when you talk about this derangement syndrome and people are saying, hey, Trump is literally Hitler, right? you got to ask your question. You got to ask the question, like, where do you go from there? Right. I don't believe that Trump is literally Hitler. Hitler was a horribly evil man. I don't think that Trump is nearly that way. I don't like the guy. I mean, like you said, he's obnoxious. He's an egomaniac. Not my cup of tea at all.
Some policies I like, but I could say it about just about everybody.
What is the the derangement syndrome? What is the flip side for the conservative side speaking about, or is it? The conservative side speaking about others on the left. What would be the derangement syndrome equality be?
There's got a lot of derangement syndromes, like
that they waste money on losers.
Well, that's government in general.
Yeah.
I think, Greg, we could have a really long conversation around government. You said, that Trump challenges the way things have always been done. I don't think that's a bad thing, because
I don't either.
The results we've had from the way things have always been done, at this point, there's a $30+ trillion deficit, debt for our country, and a huge lack of actual results, which, going back to business, if this was a business, it would fail tens of years ago, right? Maybe
it's a flawed
60,
model.
70 years ago. The reality is that business operates with less than ideal resources at every single moment. There's never a point you have the ideal number of resources. You have to make it work without having enough resources to get your ideal result. And that's not government.
Right.
If government doesn't have enough money to do something, they just pass a law stating that we're going to print more money. And you can't do that with business. You actually have to be able to exchange goods and services to somebody that's willing to pay for them at a level that they're willing to pay for it, and you can make a little bit of money at the same time. Otherwise, you're running a hobby. You're not running a business.
No, there's a point like this. I don't bother online because you're just dealing with crazies. But there was this one thing about somebody posting all these great things about the left or whatever, and I'm not going to argue. Some yes, some no. He's going on. It's like, I was going to say humility too. So he has kidney problems, right? And he's got his legs are swelling up. So I said, did you know Trump did all these things to make it easier for kidney patients? Now you can look this up. Anyone want to look it up? And he's really done a lot for him. Now, this is something not publicized.
Right.
But I guess you're not going to take advantage of him, right? And it's like we get so crazy either way now. It's like nobody wants truth about either thing.
Yeah, I think the left used to be a little more balanced. I think now they've just gotten on. They have an agenda that, to me, is very
left into the race.
So
yeah.
Both of them.
It's gotten extreme on both sides.
If you look at the parties from the 80s and the parties from today, so you've got the Democrats and Republicans, so you call those left and right? And so when there was a bill proposed that wasn't perfectly Republican from the Democrats, some of the Republicans would interact with the Democrats, and you could get some things done as a group. And then when the Republicans proposed a bill that wasn't perfectly democratic for the left side, they would still get together and collaborate and there was a little bit more, maybe 30 or 40% interchange, where they would cross the lines and actually have a conversation that was productive. And the difference between then and now is that if something isn't 100% Republican or 100% Democrat, the people in those parties don't go anywhere. They will not cross the line. They hold to the party. It's the party decision that they're going to have this as an agenda, and if something is outside of that agenda, they don't move from it. And as a result, we're at a huge gridlock.
That kind of scares me. It's almost like the party, it always reminds you of the old commie thing.
Or 1984.
The state.
And nobody admits they're wrong about anything, but there's a funny thing to leave this while we have listeners. Back when, I was not a Bush.
Go back to comic books.
I was not a George W. Bush fan at all in a lot of ways. And I was not a George W. Bush fan at all, but I remember seeing all these people going on about him. And so my friend Mike and I were going to make a film when Obama won. There's this stoner sitting there playing video games.
Right.
They announced Obama wins. He jumps up. He goes to get the job. No, then 4 years later they were doing the same stuff. But one of the things I was thinking of, not comic books this time, but I was thinking of film and stuff and how it influences, because I found out Excalibur was just 44 years now.
Wow.
That's
That
one
was
of
a
our
good
big
movie.
films.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's my favorite.
If you were a
film of all
kid,
time.
you were scarred for life if you saw Armor after seeing that movie.
Yeah, what an awesome movie, though. I mean, the story of that, it was an Arthurian legend, obviously, but it was wonderfully
It was
told.
very well done, yeah.
It was brutally violent. It had intrigue.
It had Jean-Luc Picard.
Yeah, he was the guy that went against the other knights in that film.
Because it was Guinevere's father.
Held to his principle.
Yeah.
And that caused a battle. That battle was awesome to watch on film.
There's a Knightby. I'm not, well, let's surrender to a squire. Okay, Knightby.
Yeah.
But there's like a scene from Spam-A-Lot where they're going on. Arthur's like, and yes, I will wed. Yes, sir. What is your name? Guinevere. Oh, shit.
Oh, yeah.
But I get chills like watching scenes from that movie still.
I'm going to have to go back and look at that now.
Well, it's a great movie.
Yeah, it's like, what is it, like 2.5 hours maybe?
It's a long movie.
And if you don't know little about Arthur, it's like they have the stuff about the Fisher King in there. And when you're a kid, yeah, you like the fight stuff, but some of it's surreal unless you like. No,
Yeah.
you'll like it. But
Well, I'm sure I will.
and like Nicole Williamson's great as Merlin. It's like, where is evil where you least expect it? It's like, where's the kitchen? Follow your nose.
Have you ever seen the Once Upon a Time series?
Yeah.
That was an interesting concept.
But I just get chills from so many scenes in that movie, though. It's like the scene when Lancelot comes, when they're like surrounded, and Lancelot comes back.
Oh, at the end of the movie.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because they were doing some, like I actually did a paper about how Lancelot's portrayed in the movie, because it's a little different.
And I'm glad that some of these stories are told a little bit differently. Otherwise, you'd be watching 20 different versions of the same story.
Right.
That almost all are alike. And what's the entertainment in that, right? I'm okay with some artistic license.
Sure. What if, imaginary, they used to call that imaginary stories in the comics.
Well, have you
DC
seen
comics.
the one with Clive Owen and Keira Knightley?
I've seen some of it. I've not seen
It's
the
more
entirety.
they try to be, but it's also, there's a book series by like Bernard Cornwell called The Warlord.
Oh, that is my favorite book series, by the way.
And it's about Arthur, isn't it?
It's actually centered around a spearman in Arthur's army. And, no, I can't remember his name. That sucks.
Spear guy.
Yeah, spear guy. So this guy was thrown into a pit by a druid, a pit of spikes, and he missed the spikes. And when Merlin saw this happen, because Merlin was there and participating in the ceremony, he said, this guy is special as a baby, and he adopted him. And so Merlin basically became his father figure, and he was brought up within Merlin's household, but he was also taught how to be a swordsman and a spearman for the army, and he ended up commanding people, and Arthur he was Arthur's direct report, so he would report directly to Arthur. What an amazing book series. It was The Winter King, Excalibur, and Enemy of God.
And it's called the Warlord series overall.
Okay.
And Enemy
cool.
of God, the third of the series, that was my favorite book of all time. It absolutely has everything that you would want as far as drama is concerned. It's sad, it's happy, there's battles, there's sex, there's everything involved in this book. And if you want to escape reality, it's an amazing way to do it.
Wow. I'm going to rush right out to the last remaining library and get it.
The interesting thing about it is that I was told that I needed to read that series by a friend of mine, and The Winter King is the first book, and it took me until like page 60 before I started actually enjoying it. She said, you've got to get past the first part.
It's slow.
It
Setting up,
starts
set up
slowly.
basically.
You hear a lot of names of people. You have no idea who these people are. They're old English and Welsh names. Right. And you're like, okay, who the hell is this person they just brought up, and where do they fit in the story? You can't figure it out. And at somewhere around 50 or 60 pages, you start putting it together.
That's cool. That's good writing.
I finished the Saxon Saga finally with Cornwall. And what he does, too, is he puts all the names, and I'm like, forget this. I'm just going to read it. Ethel, and I know from Vikings, Ethelstan, but they do that. But what I like Cornwall does at the end, too, is he'll go, okay, this person was historical. He tells the real historical story.
It's called historical fiction, right? So it's
real
based
people.
in history with real names and some actual events, but with elaborations that are fiction.
I didn't read them. I've only read the first one still. How did they handle the killer rabbit?
Listen, I would like to explain that to you, Rob, but I think you should go back and read the series to figure that out because it's a special part of the book.
Because I always wondered, like, if they had, like Star Trek when they had guys with the red armor. Well, you guys go down there first.
The ones who were marked for death?
Was it a Welsh killer rabbit? No. But... that wasn't in
culinary joke.
It was supposed to be.
Nasty big pointy teeth.
It was something to say, all right? I don't know.
What were you saying?
No, I was going to make my announcement, but I'll wait.
Go on, you can make it now. Why not?
Okay. So today we were watching something on TV, me and my girlfriend Debbie. So she said we were watching an old movie serial. Like she hasn't seen these 1,000 times, right? And she sort of reminded me that it's been 19 years today that we met. And, of course, I was like, oh, yeah, okay.
Were you playing it? I don't remember.
At the Bug Jar.
Oh.
I met her at the Bug Jar.
I thought I met you somewhere else. So how did she know when we met?
Yeah.
I'm glad she remembers. I'm going to wait till 20 next year.
Well, happy anniversary on the day of your meeting.
And you wouldn't think the Bug Jar is a place to find a life partner and romance, but I did.
A couple hours of life partner
at least.
romance.
But hi Debbie, love you.
You know the
Nice
story.
job.
Hi Debbie. You put up with this guy?
Congratulations, Debbie.
So I was there
He's
the
a saint.
first night the Bug Jar opened because it was like a dance club. But I had friends who lived on Priam, and we would go to Hitchcock's, the Woody's.
Oh,
and
yeah.
we'd go, there used to be Rosie's, which was a different type of bar from a dance
Right,
hall.
right. I remember Rosie's.
And my friends like, let's go see. So we get down there, and I don't know if they charged the cover or not, because I know they charged the cover for a while. But my friend walks in and goes, you got to come and see this. And to this day, I can tell when people have never been there because they're all, look at the ceiling. I see Bobby T. After all these years, I still see stuff on the ceiling I haven't seen before.
I still haven't figured out how they did all that.
They probably had ladders. Like, that's grimy or something.
Well, I know, but I mean...
Is that new technology?
How do you hammer a chair on a table? I don't know. It seems like a big task to me.
Maybe there was an apartment above and they just turned it upside down.
Yeah, there you go. It could be.
But they've had like a lot of, like, I know it's like Abilene. I remember seeing Larkin Poe there, Ellie Venable.
Right.
They had the White Stripes at one of their Bug Fests.
Wow, that's cool.
Oh, I remember that. Yeah.
Remember when they had Bug Fest? It was like almost always raining.
Yeah.
That's Rochester in general. If you want to guarantee rain, plan
something,
party, right?
But it's had a weird history with me because, like, I didn't live here in the 90s for the most part. Then I came back. But the other thing, too, is, like, I'll talk to friends when we play there. Things change. Like, a lot of, like, I'll know people who work there. But then, like, my friends who are playing. But otherwise, it's, like, all different. Where before I used to walk in, I would know everybody.
The last time I was at the Bug Jar.
I saw you there once.
It was a long, long time ago. Daniel Zaya, who you had as a guest on last week, was playing in his band at the time. What a great night that was. He's just an excellent guitarist.
He is. He's very good.
And the time before that I was at the Bug Jar, I was maybe 35, 36, 37 years old.
Oh, so a couple of years ago.
Right, yeah, it was 15 years ago. And I had some friends that were in their maybe mid to late 20s, and they invited me out. And I said, okay, I'll show up for a little while. It turned out to be one of those under 8 or less than 21, like 18 and over nights. And I walked in, and I lasted about 20 minutes at the Bug Jar. I looked around, and I go, these people look like they're 14.
Right.
I had
right?
one.
And I had to say, hey, this isn't my scene. I got to go.
It's worth telling again for our new listeners, but my friend wanted me to go see Shiny Toy Guns. They're like an LA band or something. Mm-hmm. So I'm like, okay, now let's just be polite. She had some issues at the time. She didn't show up. We'll leave it at that. So I go, and I'm like, damn it. It's like everybody's looking at me like I'm a narc. And there's like young kids. I'm like sitting back like this, and like they're just like looking at me and like look like when you just don't fit in. So the first band they had, and I'm so glad I don't know the name of them. They sucked. In every way. I feel bad, but they come out in lab coats. Obviously not our friends, the Isotopes. They're like, but they come out. They're just nothing, like no charisma, nothing. And I'm sitting there like, where are you? Like,
are they trying to do a Devo thing or something?
Devo meets I don't know something. So I'm just going,
Devo meets Beaker.
This is horrible. And then for some reason, I just go after they play what they go, God, this fucking sucks. I say it just after they play a song and it's quiet.
Nice. Oh, my God.
And Johnny Toy Guns was pretty good. It was only like $13.
That's a great name.
You know, they weren't bad. It's hard to describe them. A little like, sort of like, not really industrial, like power pop, stuff like that. But I thought it was one of my moments where I just sat there and go, but sometimes when you walk in, you just feel like the weirdo in the room where you just don't belong at all.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
No, not them. You know.
Well, I'd probably be the weirdo in the room at one of those shows as well.
But, you know, one of the other things we're going to talk about, like movies that inspired you thinking of Excalibur. Have you anything, Greg? That actually, I mean, yeah, movies are movies, but you just really like, this really affected me or whatever.
Wow. I needed some time to think about
The
that
Lone
one.
Ranger with Johnny Depp, obviously.
No, I never saw that. Probably never will.
Now, one that got me a couple of years ago is John Renault's movie called Drunk Boss, and it's filmed here. And when I was watching it, I'm like, wait a second.
I like Dragon Slayer.
That was a great movie.
I thought that was
the movie that I bought tickets to with a friend so we could sneak into heavy metal. Yeah.
I just rebought that. I've been watching that.
Because it was our tactic, what we would do for a rated R movie is we would buy a PG, then we just sneak in the other theater.
Yeah. Have you seen that in the last few years, Heavy Metal?
I own it.
Yeah, I just got it, Blu-ray. That's interesting. It's
so
different than I thought it was.
What I find, and I found this with many of these types of things from our youth, is you watch something when you're a kid, you're like, this is great, I love it.
Right.
So awesome, and then you watch it later on as an adult, you're like, this movie drag.
What was I thinking? Yeah.
All I could think was the John Candy thing where he's like gets into the muscle man. It's like, and I see this beautiful woman. I got my door king out. No, it's Stern and selling narcotics to in a schoolyard just as a nun. But like the whole story behind Drunk Bus, it's like it's a kid at college. Looks like it's RIT, and he's driving the drunk bus, and I guess these things exist at night. Right. He gets into like trouble, so they hire a bodyguard for him. And it's all about, like, he's like a ghost in the town, and the bodyguard's sort of teaching him life lessons about how to, like, you have to break the loop and grow. And there's a character in there that it's me in the future. And people are like, why is he doing that? Well, that's me.
We will await the future Rob.
Yeah.
I've not seen that movie yet, but I've seen some clips. It looks actually quite hysterical.
Why do they call him Fuck You Bob? Wait for it. We could do that on our show now.
I thought What About Bob was a very good movie, too. Because it's just like, I like Bill Murray, and I just like his sort of, his obnoxious obsessiveness with Dreyfus. It's just a funny story. Kind of like he just stalks this guy because he's such a neurotic. He's got to go see this guy even when he's on family vacation and stuff. I don't know. It was just a pretty funny concept.
Remember Office Space?
Yeah.
So I liked Office Space up until the scene where they were destroying the printer.
Right.
I thought it got goofy, and not goofy in a good way, but goofy in a bad way, and muddled right after that for almost the rest of the movie. But that first part of Office Space was absolutely hysterical. And then the second part, the thing that I really appreciated is the way that they ended the movie, where they show both those guys outside working on a construction site, and you're like, yeah, working outside, beautiful day.
Yeah.
Fucking A.
That would feel like going around in a loop a little bit. Like, say somebody now would come to you and go, John, I'm really thinking of starting my own business. Which way to go through it? I know you have a friend who you've cloned because the same name will help you look for one.
Oh, yeah. So John Adams, a friend that will help you find the right franchise business for you. His service is for free. And I don't have his phone number with me right now. But
yeah, it's really him in a big Harpo Marx wig.
John Adams is 6'10" tall. He's a very, very tall guy. Wonderful human being. True to the core, he's just a wonderful human being. Search John Adams, a friend at FRANNET, if you want to find somebody that can help you get a business. But if somebody was to say to me at this point, hey, I want to start a business.
Say no.
Well, no, in New York State maybe.
Yeah, right.
New York State and business don't mix real well. But I would say, what are your interests? Like, what is it that you would do forever without getting paid for it? And start there. And
I don't think I could do a business eating plates.
well, you could maybe find a business that could be related to eating plates, though.
I weigh 500 pounds.
If I was going to stay in Rochester and start a business in Rochester and stay in food, which I was in for close to 40 years, I might look for a space in the South Wedge and open up South Wedge pie and plates. Because I love pizza, I love plates, I love burgers, I love hot dogs.
Good name.
South Wedge pie and plates. I'm giving that to the universe here. Somebody might be able to use it.
We used to have a weird idea about all-night curry, but I don't know if that would be good next day.
Well, if you're in England and you go for a curry, they talk about what happens the next day.
I used to get into these big talks with people like this.
We're going back to toilet paper again?
That's one of those funny things about England, though. Any area will brag about having the best curry, like Birmingham. They'll tell you have the best curry.
Wow.
It's interesting. They brag about having the best food that they got from a different culture.
Right.
That's the one part about London I found out. People who go English, you can find anything there.
Oh, probably the most metropolitan city in the world.
Well, back in the old days, though, spices were a big deal. Trading spices and bringing back stuff. So that's probably...
wars were fought over it.
Yeah. I mean, another culture, like you said, and they come over, and now it's like, oh, this is ours. Well, no, it isn't.
But they have the Spice Girls. They have
Yeah.
But we have to talk about this because thoughts on the eclipse on Monday?
Mother Nature screwed us. Yeah. That's really what it comes to. She did not come through for Rochester or Western New York.
The darkness was cool, but the rest of it was pretty lax.
Rochester, I was saying, it's where sometimes could be compared the Charlie Brown trying to kick the football thing. Because I was going, okay, Sunday, clear.
Yeah.
Tuesday, clear.
Even Saturday night, by 5:30 or so, the sun came out.
Right.
And it was we missed it by the universe. Couldn't turn fast enough for us,
It's crazy that we had a perfect day on Sunday, a perfect day on Tuesday, and Monday was, I was out in Leroy where I live, and literally 25 minutes after the eclipse passed over, we went through the 3.5 minutes of darkness. 25 minutes later, it's sunny.
Right.
And it was sunny for an hour. And I thought, what the heck?
Yeah.
Well, I'm walking.
Doesn't that make you think, though? I mean, atmosphere and Earth rotation, fraction of an inch or a couple of hours difference makes
all the difference.
A lot of difference.
I disagree. It's it means we're Rochester.
Okay.
I was walking around. I go walk around.
Okay, Mr. Defeatist.
And I go walk around the show and please fans. I get tired doing this. No selfies or autographs if you see me walking around the village afterwards. Okay, it gets a little much. So what I saw it was kind of funny. I go by, there's all the specials for Monday. One place has a rocket dog and a space burger.
Yeah.
That is funny. They could call it a UFO burger because a cheeseburger sort of looks like a UFO. So, did you hear about The View and the woman on The View that said that the eclipse could indicate climate change?
No.
More climate change? And I thought, does this person understand what science is?
Right. Well, that's where I'm going. That's where I was going with the extremism of the parties. It's everything is we can spin this for a climate change thing. We can spin this as a bad for poor people thing. We can, and it's just it's become a publicist thing more than politics.
No, if your party makes the economy go well and the other party it's just for the rich.
But anyway, is that what she really said?
She said she thought that this was due to climate change.
Wow.
Well, I think what she said was this could be attributed. This could contribute to climate change, which I suppose momentarily it might have contributed to climate change for about 3 minutes.
Yeah, right.
Because it went from light to dark, and of course, when the sun is blocked out, there's less heating of the earth. Right. So you have that 3.5 minutes of less heating of the earth.
The plants go to sleep for 3 minutes.
Well, it's funny though. Like, okay, so we go for a walk, right? And one of the funniest things was there's these people that see posts online about people seeing a UFO flying around Greece. I saw somebody had a little green toy drone flying around. It came in the neighborhood.
I had this idea for a like an editorial type of, like a New Yorker kind of cartoon, and I told it to my boss because he draws pretty well. And anybody else wants to contribute, send them in. I had an idea, so you'd have two tents, like like when you have at a festival when you're selling merchandise, and one is the Eclipse merchandise, and there's all kinds of people at it. The next one right next to him says "Second Coming of Christ," and somebody's there, all dejected because there's nobody standing there.
Did you play, John? Did you play Scorpions Blackout?
I didn't play any music at all because perfect transparency here. I knew the totality was going to last 3.5 minutes and be gone very quickly. However, what I did not actually count on was how quickly it became dark.
Yeah.
And how quickly it became light again.
Yeah.
We just walked right at the right time.
Very little transition,
awesome.
Yeah.
But what's funny, though, there's these kids out like, no, I can't see anything. But I was going back just a little just about risking, because I've read, like, Walter Isaacson's Elon Musk book, and I was going, make up your own mind. And you realize, like them, don't like them, whatever. Make up your own mind, but it's like, people think he inherited all his money. He didn't. But the thing about Tesla was, like, when they went in, he took a thing with stock where had it bombed, he would have made nothing.
Yeah.
There was a point where he was working 19 hours a day to keep that business open.
Yeah, and people don't realize, like, his dad was a scam artist, and he would get money from his mom and dad, about a total $38,000 after they'd done it. He pretty much started PayPal and everything. But that's all because I see these things online. I go, why don't you do your own research?
I think he cashed out with his partners. His cut of PayPal was about $180 million. Huge amount of money. But then he took that money and put it into Tesla. And they got down to just a few $1,000s from that $180 million. So they burned off quite literally almost that entire $180 million before they turned Tesla around and started profiting some.
I thought they started good with Love Song and that other song, and then they slump on the albums or something. But what do you think caused, like, the big, I think we had like 10% of the tourists they thought we were going to have?
Oh, well, yeah. So my theory is this, is that when I first heard about this eclipse, I was part of a group in Rochester that networks among other businesses, 2018. So that was 6 years ago. So we've got a group of people that gets excited about the eclipse and think this is a consumer-driven opportunity. There's going to be lots of visitors because we're in the path of totality. There is some data showing that there was going to be a lot of visitors from the 2017 eclipse. And so they spent 6 years Googling and posting on Facebook. So what happens when you are Googling and posting on Facebook a certain subject matter is the algorithms say, we're going to feed more information to this person about this subject matter.
Right.
And I think that the people who are planning for the event just got caught in their own echo chamber. And then there was the weather. So there was a certain number of people that saw the weather forecast and just changed where they were going to go.
Right.
But if you think about Niagara Falls was supposed to have 1 million visitors, Monroe County is supposed to have 500,000 visitors. There was slower traffic in Monroe County on Monday than the average day.
I know.
I would ask for updates from friends. I'm on nothing. But I think there was a self-fulfilling prophecy, too, where we thought locally, I've got invited to an eclipse party and stuff. Like, I'm not going anywhere. And I had a lot of friends I would have watched from my backyard because you heard, like, driving to the show every week, I would see, prepare
severe delays.
3.5 miles, like 40 minutes or whatever.
Crazy.
And I think it's self-fulfilling prophecy. I'm actually been engaged. We'll have to do another episode with you. Well, you can be on when Dan's on.
I'd love to come back.
Just don't sing.
That wouldn't be a good thing.
Eclipse Day, I was at that gig at House of Guitars, right? I played with Mason Tyler. And it was cool. I mean, we took a break and it got dark, and it was cool. But they played Dark Side of the Moon while it was going on, and that was going on, and it started to get dark, and it was actually very perfect. And then later, we all went in the store for talking to Kurt and a couple other guys in there, and the kid that was running the program or the computer, he goes, "Oh, I don't know. I just sort of guessed where it was going. He just sort of like, metaphorically, he dropped the needle, and it just happened to work out."
Did you put on the Wizard of Oz?
That it
was Dark Side of the Moon.
Yeah, right.
It was destined to be.
Yeah, I've done that too. That's pretty funny.
I've gotten into the idea, and we'll have to do another show on collective delusions because I'm reading them more. Because like a lot of, like I know on
Urban legends.
TikTok, no, but also like on the things you hear probably aren't true mostly, but we think they are.
Right.
Like as priorities. Like there's one study about, you see these places like in Silicon Valley where they've got the yoga and all this stuff. On priorities, it's way down. And now a lot of people are looking more for fulfilling careers more than something where they enjoy themselves going to work than just.
Well, some of the simplest things though that they offer is huge. Daycare. Things that are just they've kind of figured out. People need actual substantive perks.
Yeah, I mean, you're also seeing like priorities like about college. College is starting to go way down in terms of, but a lot of, I think it's like.
Well, the value is almost non-existent at this point, unless you're in a real specialty area that you actually require the
podcasting 101.
Right, exactly.
But also like that, and I think a lot of people, I think 10% of the people who put like, you think like TikTok's full of crazies, but a lot of stuff online, like 80% is put out by 10% people, so people think this is like the big view of everybody. It's not.
True. Yep.
And also like on Facebook, we'll get like the same people in the little bubbles. There's no disagreements. You think this has got to be the way it is.
Speaking about TikTok, there's a new app out that's in competition with TikTok. It's called Clapper. Have you heard of this app?
No.
So Clapper is one of those you can't get kicked off this unless you violate some very specific rules. So you can swear, you can talk about the government in any way you want to. It's an 100% First Amendment driven app, this app Clapper. But you can't be nude and you can't have sexual things going on it. So I said, okay, I'm interested in that. I'm going to download it. So I downloaded it. Well, if you're on the main feed, it's all it is are TikTok videos that have been reposted to Clapper, right? And if you go to the live feed, on TikTok, there's some people that do some relatively professional shows. They're practiced at it. They know it. But if you go to the live feed on Clapper, oh, my God, talk about the Mississippi trailer park of apps. Literally, there are people sleeping in their wife-beater T-shirts on live, and somebody talking to them, and every now and then they'll lift their head and go, "Oh, yeah, man, that's cool." And I thought, you got to be kidding me. This is an app? If you want,
how did they even figure it out?
If you want some entertainment of where you're looking into a section of society that you don't really rub elbows with on a regular basis, download Clapper and go to the live feed because it is stunningly bad.
They make you go back to school.
As next time, I know you're going away for a trip too. That we have to do a show on venomous snakes or snake handling too. We'll have Greg handle the Gaboon Viper.
Okay.
Yeah, just sit a little bit further away from me, Greg.
Yes, I will.
We'll have roast. There's actually, Greg, I'll send it to you. We've watched Dingo Dingleman's this crazy guy in South Africa. He does a video where he's calling cabs to transport him and his pet anaconda.
That video was hysterical.
And he goes like that, and all he's like, he's got under the seat, get out of the car.
Wow.
But there's a lot of myths about that, too, because, like, larger snakes like that, if you know what you're doing, and they're not really going to bother you.
Well, yeah, they have temperaments just like human beings do. Not exactly like that, but
poking them with a stick's not smart.
Right, that's absolutely true. But there are some that are docile and friendly and fun, and there are some that are just always angry. And it's just like every other animal, right? If you encounter a cat or a dog, do you know what they are before you actually interact? No, you don't.
Well, it's like Clint's reptiles. He's like he's like Mr. Rogers as a scientist. But he goes like this one about a reticulated python. Well, they're fairly docile, fairly smart, but only downside is you got a pet who could kill you. Otherwise, you're really good. And the way he says it's so funny.
Oh, God.
There's a lot of videos of people. I've sent some videos to you, Rob, around the people who are feeding crocodiles. and they're in barefoot. They're in the mud. They're right next to this pond in a fenced area where a crocodile is held. And they're slapping the water with the leg of some animal, right? Trying to get this crocodile to come up. And I said to Rob, at some point, there's going to be a video online of that guy getting clobbered by a crocodile. And it's the last we'll ever see of him.
Yeah.
Well, I'll add, this has been lots of fun as always. It goes by like over an hour.
What a crock.
Yes.
Oh, sorry. I
But there's a story. My good friend Jeff Bolte, he took martial arts, and he was down there. He went to Australia for like half a year. He came back. He literally had to get like something removed because his own was going to turn to skin cancer from being down there. But he's down there. He's in an alligator farm. Crocodile farm, whichever. A woman sticks her hands in the fence, pulls back, her ring falls in there. So the guy goes, wait, goes out, he gets this huge frozen fish, he beats it on a rock, this thing comes out, and he throws it to the fish, and while it's dining on the fish, he gets the ring.
Wow.
Yeah, well, you got to distract him. You don't want him looking at you when you climb over that fence.
Yikes.
So speaking of martial arts, I do want to give a shout-out to my cousin Bernie Kelly out of Cottonwood, California. It's Northern California, just south of Redding. He's actually in Okinawa right now with a group of his students from his dojo, and they're testing in front of his teacher, his master. So 4 people of his group received their black belts this last week by testing in Okinawa, which is a pretty big deal.
Wow, that's
awesome.
awesome.
You ever hear the story about Steven Seagal, where I guess he flunked his Aikido thing 7 times?
Did he really?
But then, you know how he passed? And this has been a story I've tried to verify, but it's all over. I guess one of the...
Did he shit talk the master
What
enough?
happened was the master was like, oh, this guy can't, he fell asleep. And he was embarrassed, so he just awarded him the belt.
Here you have belt now.
But you ever hear the Richard Pryor thing? Richard Pryor's like, it's all just kung fu, so you're like, ah! And then the guy kicks you in the nuts.
Yeah. Go forth and kick ass.
That's great, because I know, like, you met Sammy. He's like a something degree, but he's been doing this stuff since we were teenagers. That's really impressive. You talk about hard work and commitment.
Yeah, there's no doubt. It takes time and effort.
So, hi, Bernie. Congratulations.
Yes.
I think that's great. That's quite an achievement.
Oh, no doubt. He has his dojo. He owns a dojo in Cottonwood. He has somewhere around 60 or 70 students. So almost 10% of them, or 10% of them, went to Okinawa with him this last week. And pictures of them training, and looks like a wonderful experience. But it's interesting because the dojo that his master owns in Okinawa does not have an address. So they give them a general area of where it is, and they have to go find it, right? Because there's not a perfect translation, but his master doesn't accept people just walking in. So if you showed up at the dojo and said, I would like to talk, they would just turn you away.
Wow.
You talking about the dojo or the podcast?
Sounds like the Batman Begins stuff.
If you want to get in the dojo, you must pick a flower.
Yeah.
You must bring it up.
It's up at the top of this fucking mountain. You see it up there?
Now I love, I read a lot about martial. There's a really good book, Iron and Silk, but I guess like Aikido too. Aikido is like it was used by the samurai to try to disarm, so it's totally reactive. So if you ask people who are in martial arts, they'll laugh in terms of it's like there's never been anybody who's won a competition with Aikido.
Because it's not.
It's reactive. It's like you were going to hit me with the bottle. I would know, but I have to okay, do something.
Yeah.
But this has been fun as always. And
man.
Thanks for having me
thanks
on.
for bailing us out.
Oh, you're welcome. It's a pleasure.
But we're going to try to. I know you're going to Wayne next month, but we'll try to get you on with Dan.
Yeah, going to Aruba.
And then we'll try to get you on,
nice.
Wanted to get Bauman back on and everything.
That would be good.
That would be cool. It'll be you actually, we've been talking about, because I've been horrifying you about, you're not going to swim, are you?
Oh, I will definitely swim when I'm in Aruba.
I just see a Humboldt squid going, aha, I see a garbage plate, yank.
Yeah, but at least in Aruba you can see him at the bottom of the water.
Oh, so you're going to see what's going to eat you?
That's right.
So I'll tell you a real quick story about Aruba. My last trip was 7 years ago there. And we went out onto one of those pirate booze cruise, right? So in a booze cruise with this one specifically, there were 3 sites that they went to that you could jump into the water and swim around. And then the 4th site, you got a swing. You could swing into the water and swim, right? And on the 4th site, I was asked to hold a camera, a waterproof camera. So I'm holding onto this camera, got onto this rope swing. So I've got 2 fingers on one hand, the other 3 are holding the camera, and a full fingers on the other hand. And I go to swing, and I decide I'm going to flip at the end and flip into the water, so do like a reverse somersault. And as I did that, I blew out my upper bicep.
Ooh.
It was the most painful thing I've ever experienced in my life.
Ow.
I'm swimming back to the boat, and my right arm is dragging behind me because I can't move it, right? And I got onto the ladder, and I was able to get up onto the boat with 1 arm and 2 feet.
Dude, that's amazing.
Can you imagine, like, the sad thing about, like, my friend Rob said, like, when I dropped dead, he's like, dude, what if you were walking by the canal and you fell in the canal? When it's like, they're like, oh, they pulled a bum out. Like, oh, Rob. There's John. He's pretending he can drown. He's like, he's pretending he can't use his arm.
Oh, my
God. But I'll leave
God.
it the short one. I was talking about squids, the Humboldt squid. I saw there's this ocean guys photographing. They're changing colors, and they could get really nasty. So what happened was the other people go to the boat. They tried to drag him down.
Oh, man.
The only reason he got away was they got his backpack.
Wow. That's kind of scary.
But so we have like our promo. What's coming for you, Greg? Everything, probably.
I played at Murph's last night with Brian.
Well, what
Lindsay.
good does
It
that
was
do?
fun. Well, it was great if you were there.
You'll travel back.
I enjoyed it.
If you travel back in time,
I'll be at the B-side next Saturday, I believe. I should probably check that, but I think it's Saturday with the Brian Lindsay Band again. And then I got other stuff coming up, but I'll elaborate on that
We're still looking
later.
for that 100th band, John.
Yeah.
If you want to start one.
Yeah, I would love to start a band.
And we probably have some people
Yeah.
on. Probably have some people on from one of your new bands or whatever.
So far, it's like the one thing I got right, so I'm going to keep at it.
John, you have your show and everything else going.
John Adams Show, 106.3 FM, Wednesdays from 11
And
to 1.
that's what, WAYO, right?
WRFZ.
RFZ, I'm sorry.
I don't know. A couple
I get
weeks
those
ago,
too confused.
a couple weeks ago, you had these guys on. I thought, like, would you get these guys from a lunatic asylum or something? That show on music. Hey, coming up over here.
I think you were there, Rob.
Well, wait a minute. Which one is WAYO then? Isn't that?
I have no idea.
No, Wayo. I don't.
Isn't that 101 something or? I'm sorry, I got them confused.
There's Mike
Okay.
Murray's channel, Lipstick, and Adam's channel, Wendy's channel for Wayo. That's all I could think of. One arm is that. But coming up too, Adrian is playing the Penthouse, which would be a really cool game.
Oh, I haven't been there yet. I got to get up there.
I actually used to clean that building.
And on the 20th at Record Archive.
Well, yeah.
420 coming up.
Yeah, man.
It's pizza day.
Yeah, but if you get down, Adrian's playing at 1, but the big event on the 20th, and we're very privileged to hear music from it, is Primetime Funk is playing at the Theater of Innovation Square.
Ooh, nice.
And get your tickets now if you can. They're going to do Tower of Power, too, some stuff.
Pretty cool.
You giving away free pot cookies? I don't know.
No, I guess the keyboard player is going to be handing out ice cream before the show. So you see that.
Close enough.
So I have no idea what the Primetime Funk song is going to be, but it's going to be really good. And thanks a lot, John and Greg. And
Thank you, guys.
We'll have
thanks, John.
more shows. Not
You're
today,
welcome.
though.
Yep.
I'm going to Nazareth.
Okay, bye.
Please welcome to Primetime Funk and to the stage, Mr. Sean Powell.
And it goes a little something like this. Hit it! There's a place that everybody's going to. It's the place that's the place to be. It's the scene where everybody wants to be seen. If you choose to go and make a statement, your body will follow. You better be there way ahead of time or stand in line. Yeah. Everybody's gonna be there. There'll be party people rhythm and blues. If you choose to go and make a statement, your body will follow. There's gonna be some competition there, so beware. A little bit of soul now, and some positive emotion, and one thing you know we say is sold out. Got to get in, everybody got to get in. It's sold out. Got to be there, everybody got to be there. It's sold out. Got to get in, yeah. It's sold out. Got to be there, everybody got to be there. It's sold out. It's sold out. Yeah. It's sold out. Woo. It's sold out. Got to get in, everybody got to get in. Come on. Got to be there, everybody got to be there. Put your hands in the air, clap with me. Got to get in, everybody got to get in. Yeah. Got to be there, everybody got to be there. Party people everywhere. Throw your hands way up in the air. They got their dancing shoes, so they got the thunder, have no blues. Party people everywhere, yeah. Throw your hands way up in the air. If you're rocking with T-I-M-E, let me hear you say yeah. Say yeah. It's gonna be everybody people everywhere. And one thing you know we say is sold out. Got to get in, everybody got to get in. It's sold out. Got to be there, everybody got to be there. It's sold out. Got to get in, yeah. It's sold out. Thank you guys.